every single time there's going to be engagement. When the Springboks are playing, you're going to know that the Springboks are playing. People are going to be posting about it. People are going to be watching the game, and all that stuff. So I think it's just that engagement and togetherness. It just brings everyone together.
Seeing how almost every decision, specifically behind the scenes, everyone has a role.
In different aspects of life, you have there's this social obligation to make sure that there's inclusion, because obviously apartheid and all these things, talk about South Africa's history. So in all aspects, there's going to be these conflicts.
Honestly, no one cares about. Not that they don't care about the players, right? Like I could be saying, it's really about the history, right? Because your favorite players might be there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time.
Welcome to the Rugby Swag Show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Rugby Swag. My name is GiftTime and this is a show where we make sure that you do not lose the story in ignorance in news or interviews. Y'all, we got a great show for you today, man. But before we get started on that, I need you guys to please, if you could, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube, leave a like button and a comment, and absolutely will appreciate that to its fullest extent. Y'all, we want to make sure that we're able to get this out to as many people as possible, make sure that the stories that are told to us are not lost in memory, and make sure that the people who deserve the credit really do get their credit, as well as making sure you're staying informed so that you can tell your casual rugby fans and you can tell the new rugby fans what all is happening and what's going on, But, y'all, we got a great one as well. Please, if you guys can't catch it on video, please absolutely check us out on any major podcast platform. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Music. You can find us on iHeartRadio Media. You can find us on Amazon Music, basically any major platform. If you guys are on Spotify, please drop a like and a comment as you would if it was YouTube. Love the engagement. The participation is everything. And I absolutely appreciate everybody who's been able to continue to and consistently and sporadically are able to create the conversation in the comments. It brings me true joy and makes it easier to be able to do this each and every week. Additionally, y'all, if you guys want to be able to hit us with the comments, please go check out our social media as well. You can find us on @Rugby Swag Show on Instagram, and you can now find it on Facebook as well. But primarily, if you do Facebook, you can utilize @GiftTime Rugby, as well as @GiftTime Rugby on TikTok, YouTube, Threads as well. Trying to do a little blue sky. I would also say Twitter, but currently I'm a little bit blocked out from Twitter, so I can't really fully engage Twitter all the way. But we are trying to find our way back whenever the country allows us to be able to come back again, as it may. So definitely appreciate you for all that you're doing and all that you can be doing with this. Y'all, we got a great show. I got my son with me today because, this is what it is whenever it's early dad life, all right? Early dad life, you got to bring the kids with you to work at some point in time. So, Joakim, you want to say something? No, Joakim's chilling. But, we've got a great show for you today. Two guys who are absolutely changing the game when it comes to being able to make rugby a more engaging and participatory platform, and doing it through daily fantasy sports. We're talking with Nyasha Mutseta and Kumbi Sibanda of AthStat Gaming. And of course, if you guys don't know, because you might not, but they also do a great podcast, rugby podcast, going back and forth, especially when it comes to Springboks and All Blacks, called The Benchmarkers. Great conversation that we had, basically going from talking about how rugby is working in South Africa and the impact with the audience, as well as what it means to be able to do these daily fantasy apps and what it means to be able to have the data. I know there's such things like Super Brew and whatnot, but man, they're really trying to change the game in a way that is impressive, and you guys will see and be able to see the conversation. But in the meantime, y'all, please go ahead and take a listen. If you guys get a chance, definitely go check out some of our other podcasts as well. We've had some great interviews, great conversations. Last week we spoke with Chris Thomas, and there's even a slew more behind that to be able to converse, as well as our new show. So if you guys get a chance, absolutely, after this episode is done, go check out the rest. Keep informed, keep ahead of the game, know what's going on. But in the meantime, let's get to Nyasha and Kumbi, the benchmarkers, AthStats Gaming. Check it out.
Buckwheat is changing lives. My name is GiftTime. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite products on our shelves, buckwheat baking mix. Buckwheat is a seed that is incredibly nutrient and protein dense. But what makes it even more important, that buckwheat baking mix is absolutely gluten-free. A lot of times whenever people have buckwheat mixes, they actually even hold wheat inside of it. So you know it's not fully gluten. And if you're a person that is celiac or diabetic, or you're just really trying to be health conscious, it's not something that you want to have to worry about. What makes our buckwheat baking mix even more important is that it is versatile. You can use it for pancakes, you can use it for waffles, you can use it for making loaves of bread, you can make it for cupcakes. But what helps even more is that it is allergen-free, it is nut-free, it is dairy-free, that there is no additional additives in it. There's no leavening there, so that if you want to be able to raise your bread, you can put in the baking powder yourself and get it fluffy. If you don't, you absolutely do not have to. You get the bread that you love without the cost to your health. You can absolutely find buckwheat baking mix at healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely check it out. Get your nostalgia back. Get back to eating and loving the way that you are, and absolutely get back to the energy that you know that you can get without having to destroy yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing you get it. Let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Rugby Swag. We got a special set of guests for you guys today. Y'all, they got one of the funniest podcasts. Whenever you get them talking All Blacks and Springboks, that's whenever it's about to go down for real. They also are working on a new daily fantasy sports for rugby and amongst other sports in AthStat Gamings, y'all. They are the techs. They are the rugby fandoms of the rugby fandoms. 4 Cups, Springboks, right? And introduce you, Nyasha Mutseta and Kumbi Sibanda. Nyasha,
Right.
Kumbi, man, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Gift.
Yeah,
We
man.
appreciate
Thanks. that was really
Man.
energetic. Thanks.
Hey, look, you know, hey, come with it. You will get your proper intro the way that you deserve it. Let's go.
No, we appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, look, guys, you know, obviously we our initial conversations have been, you know, based off of AthStat. Our guy, you know, Cassette Sharon Genji was really my connection to AthStat, but to see where the company is starting to go and grow has been kind of a wonder. And what you guys have going on next is really, really fantastic, because, you know, as we continue to grow this rugby space, because it's constantly growing. Like, I know in South Africa, you guys got yourselves all good together and we got rugby consistently, but the rest of the 98% of the world, it's just chaos. It's just chaos.
Yeah.
You know, but what you guys are doing to be able to create a variation where you can make it easier for people to not only attach to the game, but to find ownership, I think is massive when it comes to it. So I'm looking forward to being able to learn more about what you guys are doing with this and how it's growing, and really just be able to find your guys' perspective in this whole rugby spacing thing.
Right.
So
All right.
before I get say what?
I said, I agree. Of course, here in South Africa, I mean, it's the best rugby in the world, right? Yeah, but
Okay.
I mean, it is. You,
Yeah.
Kumbi's team
No, I
just
mean, we're not
lost.
going to start
So
those fights.
give them.
You
Okay. No, they're
No, don't
coming.
worry. We're gonna get
They're
We're gonna get
coming.
into
They're
this.
coming.
We're gonna get into this
Right. Yeah,
because
yeah.
I got questions for this. I want to see how much I can stoke this flame the way that it needs to be started. But before we get started, and I'll go for each of you. I always say that every superhero has their origin story, and I'm gonna start with you, Kumbi, because you're on top right
Yeah.
there, and then
Sure.
Nyasha. But for both of you, I want to ask, how did you get started in rugby?
Well, I got started when I was 12 years old. I think we went to one of those schools where it was, compulsory. Everyone had to, if you were there, you had to play rugby, right? So I was, you know how it is. You grow up, you're playing the normal sport. I was playing football, right? Or at least I was trying to play football. I had 2 left feet. It wasn't really working out, and then just went onto the rugby field. Just got a ball and just felt natural, right? And then just carried out through there. Played through high school. Because you are at boarding school, it kind of becomes, like you're kind of close together and you're watching it as, with your brothers and all that stuff. So because of that, I think we grew a love for the game that really hasn't extinguished. So yeah. So basically it's been what, 16 years of watching the game, and we keep going strong. So
Yo, I love that. And you know what? It makes sense, especially whenever it's jammed down your throat at the time where you're just like, look, what do I got to do? I either got to be the finesse one, and they're hating on me because
right.
I'm too big for them to be able to understand my greatness. And then you got the other side where it's like they're accepting me and like embracing me in. Why wouldn't I go be a part of this?
Right, exactly. Yeah, when it's jammed down your throat, you're like, okay, yeah, no, I like this. I like this a little bit. Yeah, so that's basically my story.
And Nyasha, how about yourself, man? How did you get started in rugby?
Yeah, so similar story to Kumbi, because here in Zim we have to kind of play every sport actually, right? So
Yeah.
I think I started in grade 3, right? Which I don't know what age grade 3 is, right? No, Kumbi, don't give me that look. I sucked.
Yeah, these guys
at that age,
for a long time.
at that age, yeah. But then anyway, from grade 3 to 7, you dabble in every sport. And then when you go to what we call Form 1, which is like your first year of high school, which is when you're hitting puberty, so your body decides whether or not you're going to continue playing rugby. And I was part of a great team. I had great coaches, and I got to just the level before first team, because then I had to make a decision between rugby and hockey, and I wasn't as big as Kumbi. So I had to choose hockey. But yeah, man, playing rugby was, I mean, it was nice, and especially because our team really lost. Who doesn't want to be? And not because I was a star player, right? the teammates were amazing, right? Like these guys, I wish they'd gone on to play professionally, man. Yeah, I used to love watching them play while I'm in the game. I'll just sit back and watch them as they make their runs. So that's how I got started. And then of course moving to South Africa for my university years, and that's such a big rugby nation, because I didn't quite enjoy watching rugby as much. I just enjoyed playing it. But moving to South Africa, that's when I really picked up a love for watching the game, because you can't escape it. You can't escape it. It's a Springbok nation. You can't.
So this is one of the interesting components. There's a lot that we just pulled out from that. So I'm going to break this into a few different pieces here. So like starting off with just like the presence of how the game is being presented over there. I always have this this theory, because as being from the States, even though Nigerian, so add to the cockiness, I will levy my arrogance on you guys all the way through. but being from the States, I am widely believing that the U.S. is top notch when it comes to athletic presentation in general. But when it comes to rugby, we've fallen very much short. So I'll always look at where other countries have done it, namely where New Zealand, England, South Africa are presenting, and how that relates to the engagement and how people are able to connect with the sport. Now, actually, as you said, like in Zimbabwe, it was you enjoyed playing it more than watching it, but when you got to South Africa, you were able to appreciate watching it as much or maybe more than playing it. What is it? And even you, Kumbi, if you can, what is it in your guys' perspective that makes the game environment that much more interesting in South Africa versus maybe what you guys might see in where you might feel it might be in other locations? Like, what is it? How is the rugby presented?
Okay. Kumbi, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think the rugby is basically it's kind of this sport that's presented in South Africa as the sport that brings people together, right? So, I mean, yeah, we can say, yeah, politically, yeah, Nelson Mandela, 1995. I
was about to say that man brainwash you guys. Then he said, hey,
right, exactly, right. So
Right.
you looked at the World Cup right after independence and all that stuff, and that's where the Rainbow Nation stuff then comes in.
Right.
We can say that theoretically, but I think when you see a Springboks game, especially, I think this is the perfect time to talk about this because this is right after the All Blacks game. When the All Blacks are playing the Springboks, for example, basically everyone is talking about it. Bars are filled up. I think it's also just because South Africa is just any excuse to have a braai, any excuse to go to a bar, right? Like we're there, right? Right. So when the Springboks are there, put around the big screen TV, whatever, and it's just everyone is just supporting this. Millions of people supporting one team. And I think that's just it's just the fact that there's just so much engagement. It's kind of like, imagine, in other countries, in other sports, people only engage kind of like at a World Cup, right? For example, right? Or at the Olympics, that's when you watch your 100 meters, but you don't really watch Diamond League and all these other ones leading up to it, right? But in this case, right, every single time there's going to be engagement. When the Springboks are playing, you're going to know that the Springboks are playing. People are going to be posting about it. People are going to be, we're watching the game, and all that stuff. So I think it's just that engagement and togetherness. It just brings everyone together in one place. It's a beautiful thing to see. You need to come to
you have to experience it. Yeah. And I guess I could just add to what Kumbi saying, because from my perspective, because again, I wasn't big on rugby. What drew me is there's so many aspects. Firstly, high school rugby is very important in South Africa. They are I think the only country where their high school rugby clips go viral. Right.
We see the big like giant boys school, celebration. Hey, yeah, and I'm like, yo, that's wild. Also, why no girls over there? But
hey, we need the boys to focus.
Focus, man. Focus.
They have to focus, right? Yeah. So it starts at the school level, right? And it's covered by the biggest sports broadcaster in Africa, right? Called SuperSport, and SuperSport takes every game seriously, right? So whether it's high school rugby, it gets as much coverage. Obviously, on as many games, but the big games are covered. We know who's playing well. We know who the top players are at the schoolboy level, and this is covered nationally. And then one thing I noticed is when I was in university, I'm sure Kumbi played for we call them residence. It's like think of it as a house, right? Kind of
like a dorm house, essentially.
Yes. Sorority, yes. Right, like so if you live like in a building, it probably has a name, right. So they, like, at that level, which is very amateur, they play it seriously. They have kids, they have sponsors, right? And it's really important. Like, it's essentially our NCAA, right? And it's super important. And then every level up to there, you can play great rugby and have fun. And then, of course, once you get to the Springboks, if you ever watch SuperSport, you can see like Sia Kolisi in 4 different adverts back to back to back. And that's just him, right? And you go to any mall, there's Springbok cutouts of the players, right? The chips, like our Lays, or maybe not Lays, but the Simbas, they'll have the Springboks on them. Your colognes, your shields, colognes, your antiperspirants, they'll have a Springbok on them. You billboards, you can't escape it, right? So you don't have a choice. It's so encompassing. You don't have a choice but to fall in love. And also it helps that the guys are charismatic and cool, So yeah,
this is one part that it adds to that interest, because I found that a lot of times when you're dealing with rugby players, like off the field, like you keep them like within the pub or with socials and pub, coolest people you'll meet, right? Everybody's able to talk, charismatic. But as soon as that camera shifts in on a person, all of a sudden everybody gets very stiff and very, very like the lower demeanor. And I always wonder how that presents out because, you know, for us over in the States, you know, that personality is everything. Like if you're not running off your personality on camera, you can be chill off camera, do nothing off camera. But if you're on camera, you need to bring that full fire, or else it's very difficult for people to attach on and really get to know who you are. Of course, your play on the field will always be a leader, but I believe that within rugby union there is a consistency of this. So whatever you're saying that like those players in South Africa are showing that same charisma off the field. Do you feel like it is a situation that is unique to the Springboks, or do you think that it might just be we might not be getting the full picture over on this side?
That's actually a pretty interesting question. Yeah,
I don't think you do get the full picture, though. I think that's, well, for me, I mean, obviously we're talking about the good things about rugby, but I think that's probably one of the things that I criticize personally, because you talk about them. I mean, you can criticize American sports all you want. The one thing that you people do well is to advertise the game, market the game. You know, everyone talks about, no, the face of the league, LeBron James. No, but Nikola Jokic can't be the face of the league because he's not really out there, right? So, you know, basically rugby is just a league. I mean, the good thing is we obviously have been taught to be like, you know, gentlemen on the field. Right. Don't speak out of turn. Don't do all these things. But, you know, on the whole, obviously, we've talked about the more people are out there a little bit. But then for the most part, rugby players really are a little bit, you know, reserved, respectful, a little bit, right? But so even though, yes, it's a great quality on paper, but we do lack that, you know, little enthusiasm that would help us market the game a little bit more to wider audiences. You know, so that's my opinion.
I know, and that's same. It's like I said, it's the part that I've seen consistently. And again, from the U.S. side, I'm always a little bit critical. I'm less critical of overseas because I feel like culture obviously is going to be different, even though we can have those overlapping arenas. But like when I see someone go, you know, in the U.S., we need to have a star. You need to have a star to get people in. It's almost a necessity. Like you can have, if you're the greatest team sport team, you'll rise. Just like you use Jovic as the example. You'll rise to an effect where people can appreciate your game, but you'll never really go over the top in getting the adoration of someone versus like you being good, being on a team, but also standing out because the individualism you know, exceeds in the US. So I don't bemoan it necessarily in other countries, but I also still bemoan a little bit in rugby back to the marketing aspect. How do you make it easier for somebody to enter into it instead of confusing them with everything else? So when it comes to the presentation, I ask about South Africa, I do ask, you know, a little bit like what that celebrating factor is. How does the ethos kind of work? Is it well, we're about the team, and as long as the team is good, then we're all good? Or, yo, I got my favorite player, and this player is who I'm dragging. And if they go to the Cheetahs, I'm watching them at the Cheetahs. If they go to the Stormers, I'm watching them at the Stormers. If they jump up and went to Premiership and started playing for Bristol, like I'm gonna watch them. Like, how is that factor for you guys? And is there anybody that you guys consider as your favorite players in those aspects?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I think it's more of a team thing, right? So I can speak from like NBA. I'm an NBA fan, like NBA and rugby are my two favorite sports, right? My attitude with rugby and with basketball, two completely different things, right? So with NBA, I'm like, LeBron, wherever LeBron goes, the Lakers, you know, I'm rooting for the Lakers. If he changes, I'm gonna change, right? When it comes to this, it's just, you know, it's a matter of like team. It's all about the team. You think about bomb squad, right? it doesn't matter who's on that bench. It doesn't matter who's starting, right? Whether it's going to be, because I know Kodisi, for example, broke his jaw in last week's game, right? So I know he's not going to be starting. Well, probably not going to be starting in the next game. You're going to back them. Whoever's going to start, whether, Peter Steff is at lock, whatever it is, it's just the Springbok brand that you're going to be, that you're going to be rooting for.
Yeah, I agree with Kumbi there. I don't know necessarily why it's like that. I think because rugby feels accessible, right? Like us, for example, right? I'm a Formula One fan, right? Will I ever meet Max Verstappen? There's a chance. Like, it's not a non-zero chance, but it's so far removed, right? That it is genuinely about the personality. Now, for me, if Max Verstappen changes teams, right, if he goes to Mercedes, I'll become a Mercedes fan, right? Right, exactly. So for me, there it is about the personality. But the way rugby is, it doesn't matter, because right now, Sasha Feinberg just had a like, he wasn't the man of the match. I don't know how, but he just had a terrific game. Right now, for me, he's good, but it's not like when Mani Lebok was in the squad. I'm like, oh yes, I'm so glad he's gone. No, it's if he came in, of course I'd ask where's Sasha, but at the same time, Mani's in, okay, and then like Pollard, I love to see him kick, but Sasha's kicking while the team's doing well. I don't care as long as
that's a great example actually. That's a great example because just now in the World Cup, everyone was saying, just before the World Cup, everyone was like, Mani Lebok, wow. Right? Yeah. Pollard comes in, everyone is like, 100 Pollard, wow. Right? Right now, everyone is like,
he is the greatest kicker. How can you not look?
Right. So listen, whoever's in that jersey, we're just gonna jump on, whatever.
And similarly, no one's immune to criticism now, because now if Sekou is having a bad game, right, we're going to be upset, right? If he's removed, I don't think we as fans take it personally. Like, I know if it's a big game, it's a big soccer game, and Messi's removed or Ronaldo, even if they're having a bad game, it's, maybe they'll just do something special. But in rugby, once someone's having a bad game, and Rassi will remove a player that's having, I feel like he does it more to protect the player. But anyway, right, he'll remove them, and for us it's fine, right? We trust the coach, we trust the team, we trust the process, and the process has been working. So it really is about the team, and especially in South Africa, it's about the team and the nation.
No, I like that, and it looks like it's found its way to being a consistent success. And I know, look, I know the Springboks have had a long history alongside with the All Blacks of a type of success, but I feel like the Springboks of 2019 and on, of the 2020s, are starting to hit a different level than they've been since maybe 2007 might have been before, where I feel like from that point, 2007 to 2015, 2017, the All Blacks really had their foot on the pedal. Now, Kumbi, I know this is where you like to be able to tap into on this one. For you guys watching this sport develop over the course of this last particularly 16 years for you at the most, what is it that you guys have been seeing that has been, maybe when I say the most significant change in terms of developing the arc of how rugby is not just presented, but is felt now versus, where you guys started from what is it, 2009, 2007, 2006 to now, in your respective times? What have you felt has changed with rugby in its ambiance, its aura?
They're the wheat flour that you can eat. My name is GiftTime in Baylor. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods. And I want to tell you about one of our best and most beloved products, our sweet white wheat baking mix. Now, this is the baking mix for those who are not really looking for something that's gluten-free, but they are looking for something that they can eat that is going to still be healthy and is not going to be dangerous. White flour is typically a very processed, incredibly bleached flour, and it's not good for you. It's incredibly cheap for a reason. Our sweet white wheat bread mix is whole grain, dairy-free, high in dietary fiber, free of additives, and is absolutely unprocessed and unrefined. With our sweet white wheat bread mix, you can feel like you're getting all the same rewards that you would get from poor white bread, but with all the nutritional value. You're able to still make your bread loaves or your cakes, your flat bread or your cookies, but you don't have to feel like you are going to be robbing yourself of good carbohydrates. You can get the sweet white wheat bread mix from healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely go impress your friends and family with the greatest bread while not making them feel like they have to be gluten-free at the same time. No dangers, full body pleasures. Go ahead and get yours today. Let's go.
That's a very interesting question.
You ask good questions.
Yeah, right.
This is what we do, baby.
Right. You see, these are the type of questions where you go on and on without keeping quiet. So let me try to keep this as.
Hey, you know what? This is the reason why it's a podcast. You know, we'll edit if it's necessary, but no.
Yeah. So the thing is, right? So like I said, I started, my rugby. My rugby was like towards the end of that little first Rugby World Cup cycle because I started watching rugby around 2010-ish. Playing rugby 2009, watching around 2010. So obviously that's when the All Blacks started their, that dominance.
Right.
But and I think the thing is, it's very interesting because all of this, this question then brings in other things as well, like discourses that we have about, are the Springboks ruining the game and all that stuff, because all of that kind of tracks back for me to even before when I started watching. So, for example, when I started watching, that's when the All Blacks were reimagining the game. Right. So that's when. Before, we had forwards and backline players. Forwards were considered to be, oh no, these guys are dumb. Don't give them the ball. They're not going to pass. All they want is to just smash, right? It was kind of like American football players and left tackle and whatever, offensive linemen and all. You're not going to give them the ball and expect them to do anything with it, right? And then the All Blacks just developed the game. It didn't seem as if it was something significant, but that changed. That whole, listen, I'm going to give these guys the ball. They have the skill to just pass the ball. They started opening up defenses like crazy. And that's when we had that era, which I believe was the greatest team. That 2011, 2015 All Blacks team, best team I've ever seen in my life, right? And I think because, post that is now interesting because obviously the All Blacks lost some players, like we were talking with Gift before this, right? All Blacks lost some players, Dan Carter, Richie McCaw, right? But then now the gap started to reduce because everyone kind of started figuring out, okay, this is what the All Blacks do best. Now we just basically, naturally the gap is going to be closed, right? Ups and downs, right? But the interesting thing, because now we talk about the All Blacks in South Africa, right? All Blacks have now gone in a direction where you're like, well, maybe it's kind of like losing the plot, right? Because, well, I mean, I don't want to get into a bit of an emotional rant about my team here, but
let's go. We want tears. Let the rage flow.
Because sometimes I think when you're on the up, you kind of lose track of what gives you success, right? Because you think back to all these 2015 teams, you're like, oh man, Julian Savea, Israel Dag, Sonny Bill Williams, all the exciting stuff, Dan Carter, but you forget that the people are actually making this team work well. The names that you don't really, you don't really like, Tony Woodcocks, Owen Franks, the guys who are in the steam room, who, if it hadn't been for those guys, you wouldn't have gotten out of a tight semi-final game against the Springboks in 2015. Right, those are the guys who kind of give you the leeway to be able to give you, to be that exciting. And I think because the All Blacks kind of have gone away from that, and I think it's unfortunate because, for example, one of the big things that happened is Super Rugby used to be Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, right? Now New Zealand were like, no, we don't need these guys. Now South Africa is not in Super Rugby anymore. And I feel like Australia especially is kind of taking a hit because they don't have that. I mean, when you play against South African teams, it hardens you, right? And they've lost that, right? And now they don't have that physicality. right?
Right.
So these teams are kind of moving in a direction that I'm not really a fan of. But in South Africa, you talk about 2007. I can even go back to 1995. These guys have had the same formula. Big forwards, right?
Right.
Which again is the same formula, I think, in same as 2015 All Blacks as well. Big forwards that are physical, that can win the contact. Once they win that contact, now you can have the exact 2007, they had Brian Abana, right? Like it's not like they were a boring team, right?
Right.
Now they've got Chest and Kobe. The solution is the same. Right. I saw someone say last year, if I'm a Springbok, if I get into the Springboks team right now, the reason why they're going to win the World Cup is because I know my role. Even if I were me, just take it from the street, I just get put in the team. The solution is simple, right? They don't. So even though rugby develops, as long as you keep the fundamentals the same, right? And I think now we kind of now start to see how where different teams are as far as their fundamentals, how they're respecting different parts of the game, and I think where they are on the rankings and how they're performing is a reflection on all those things. In a nutshell, that's as short as I can give it to you.
I like that. I like that. It brings up a few more because there's some ad, but I want to hear from Nyasha. From your perspective, obviously you started watching it at a little bit older age, but you're still within that environment, and a lot of Zimbabweans seem to have gone from Zimbabwe to South Africa and have filled up the South Africa team more than the South Africans have.
First, I'd like to say Zimbabwe just won an Africa Cup, right?
Yes.
Right. Just last month. Right.
Yeah.
So the
my
boys
guys in Nigeria, man, you're killing me over there. All right, you're killing me.
No, but it took a lot of teamwork. Yeah. So obviously, I've been watching rugby as long as Kumbi has, right? And really, I really only watch when the Springboks are playing, right? And unless if it's a World Cup or whatnot, my main interest. So I'll say for me, really the main, I don't want to call it a change because it could have been a discovery, right? It could have already been there, but just how tactical and data driven the teams are, right? And because I'm into data, I've seen it across the sports, right? Whether it's soccer or whatnot, right? Like Rasi right now, he has that little game that they play, which reveals the tactics, like the tactic they ended up using against, I think it was France. Right. So the data driven aspect of it, I think for me has been more, I want to say shocking. Right. Now, as far as the player selection, I do agree with Kumbi that pretty much the formula is clear, right? The formula is clear, everyone's roles are clear. There are no superstars, if I were to put it that way. Like no one's bigger than the team. And when I do look at old box and new box, one striking difference is, I'd say, the cruelty of the old box. Right. Buckers, the right, just a massive cruelty, right? So the game looks a lot safer. Because I watch it looks like now I would kind of be comfortable playing, right? With how small I am. It's like, okay, I feel like they'll tackle me fairly.
You don't feel like there's gonna be that extra push to try and drive you into the ground a little bit more.
Because what's the other guy's name? Is it
Skalkberger?
Skalkberger, yeah. And I mean, these guys they were mean, right? There's no other way to put it. It wasn't, right? It's just actual cruelty, right? And now I'd say it's a bit more civilized.
They were they were actually just hooligans playing a hooligans game. There was no
right? Because imagine if Ibn Nisbet was part of that team, right? Like. Goodness. And they had, can I say, like, raised them to no. Some people would be in jail. And, some people, but no, for me, I haven't. Obviously, I didn't watch back in the day, but the main thing that has impressed me is just the more data-driven part of it, especially with Dr. Rasi, seeing how almost every decision, specifically behind the scenes, everyone has a role. I don't know if you watched Chasing the Sun documentary, where it's really a behind the scenes about the Springboks, but just how everyone is trusted and everyone has a role, and everyone does their research. They come in, they contribute, from the top players to I promise even that the people that are managing the grounds are just as respected as Siya Kolisi, because it seems like it's that much of a unit. But yeah, I'd say on my side, that's what I've seen.
Yeah, I love that. There's and I think that makes a lot of sense, especially in the culture, because I feel like especially over the 2010s, there was a number of shifts that happened with the Springboks, and I want to ask a little bit about the professional leagues as well too. But like with the Springboks, if I remember correctly, there was a point maybe in 2013 or 2014 where racial selection or selection that involved better equity of racial balance was placed into the team. And I know there was a lot of pushback at the time, but it feels like whatever it was that happened there seemed to have accelerated the process of getting a Springboks team that is dynamic. Because I remember whenever I started watching, so I realized I started watching about the same time you guys did, but my detail on it was I started involving myself in rugby. Let me say that. Involving myself. It took a long time to start watching it before I was like, okay, let me give it a chance here or there. But like it was about that 2010 time. But I remember when I would watch the Springboks, I was like, Springboks rugby is the equivalent to England rugby. And I find Northern Hemisphere rugby to be the most boring thing in the world up until recently. Right? Like, I get it, big guys do big guys, but also I want you to get stuff out to the backs and then let's see you make it move a little bit instead of just crash, rotate out, crash, score. And we get a 10-7 game, and it drove me crazy. But I feel like ever since whatever the dynamic changed for the box, you moved out from that, forwards crash and then swing it out to the backs to like a free-flowing, more, I guess, New Zealand-like game and utilizing those factors. But, can you guys explain a little bit, if I was getting that right, about what happened with that equity, that diversity equity component that was going on, and really what kind of resulted from that?
I think it's to be honest, if I'm not mistaken, it should still be there, right? I think there's South Africa is one of those countries where it's there, where in different aspects of life you have, like, there's this social obligation to make sure that there's inclusion, because obviously apartheid and all these things, talk about South Africa's history. So in all aspects, there's going to be these quotas, right? I think they started enforcing them long before, even when the Springboks were successful, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not as, because I think 2010, the problem, in my opinion, is sometimes when a team doesn't do too well, right? People want to look for places to point the finger, right? And I think naturally, first thing that we're always going to do the coach, right? That's kind of like a natural thing, first place that you're going to go. But that was one of the things that people pointed at, like, listen, this is what's kind of wrong, because I think people looked at not even just the Springboks, just looking down through the system, the schools and whatnot, and seeing, okay, well, these schools that are here, there's not as much diversity even in the schools, right? So let's start to get more people of color, talent in other communities as well. And I think because now it's not really something that you have to be like, wow, this guy, because there's talent. There's talent across the board. It's not really something that you kind of have to force. I don't think that there's anyone who can point to that and say that's the case. But it's been the case. I think it's just, again, teams go through ups and downs, and unfortunately, when it goes through downs, we're going to pick at every single thing. But this is something that's been there since, and it's just a result of South Africa's history, to be honest. We experience it in all aspects.
From the US. Yeah. Oh, we understand.
But just to add to what Kumbi's saying, because obviously the NBA, maybe it didn't go through it formally, but clearly diversity elevated the sport, right? Now, if you just think of it logically, I think the non-black, or shall I say, maybe the white population in South Africa is, I think about 5%, right? So it's not the largest, right? So if you're trying to pick a team, right, if you just include the other, it must be 80 something percent, because the other races in between, you're more likely to just find. I understand you're just picking a squad of, let's say, 30, right? For example, right? It's a numbers game. You'll find more. Now, of course, the reason it was done wasn't because of that, but naturally it would improve a team. Now, as far as diversity in the systems, which is what Kumbi was saying, we actually have a similar issue here in Zimbabwe, where it's not quite a racial diversity thing. It's a socioeconomic thing, right? Because obviously rugby is not like soccer. You're not going to put together some plastic bags and just go play in the street,
Right.
It's rugby.
Which ironically you should be able to, but for some reason, this elite world, and it's made no sense to me. Of all the sports, you think football, you know what? I'm American. Soccer, you think soccer would be the one that would be living up here, and then rugby, which is rougher and more tasking to the body, would be the one that is far more gracious to the people. But you kind of to the point that you're saying, it's not picked up as easily off the street, just off whim, probably for those same reasons.
Yeah, exactly. So what you find, like right now, while of course a good percentage of the players are from disadvantaged backgrounds, they'll be given scholarships into the schools where the resources are, right? And then from there they develop, and of course go on to become Springboks. So while I can't speak to the intention, but the result is certainly one I agree with, because one, you get more fans. If 80% of the population can see people like them, they then aspire to be that, and also it's a lot easier to support, because the Springboks, even in the hood, right? What we call the kasi, right? But it's the hood. They'll have a big screen there, and it's just full, right? It's just full of people, right? And so from the richest to the poorest. However, the makeup of the stadiums is still very much not diverse. If you've ever been to a Springboks game, you could be the only person who looks like you in the whole section. Kumbi will tell you. I'll tell you. It's because those tickets are expensive. But anyway, that's an issue for another time.
And it goes back to those aspects of how the sport grows and how it's able to sustain itself. But I think it also plays into some of the problems. So, I kind of want to shift a little bit from the international side, and I want to tap into some of the professional side, because this goes a little bit into what you guys do with the app. And I'm assuming you guys also discuss on this in benchmarks as well, is the functionality of the professional side alongside the high club. So obviously you guys have now URC components in it, formerly Super League components, and then you guys have things like what is it, where the cheetahs and everything are in. Forgot that league, but forget that one. With URC, with URC at least, how does the professional kind of fit into the cultural watching style of rugby in connection with the international side? I know everybody's trying to replicate some version of it, but how does it, from your guys' perspective, work together?
To be honest, I think, in my opinion, I think there's quite a bit of a disconnect there, to be honest. And it's also just the one of the massive things. I did mention it before. There's the instability that's come from it. For example, back when we started watching, there was Super 12, right? 12 teams, 4 from Australia, from New Zealand, 4 from South Africa, right? Everyone knew what was up, and attendance was good. Viewership was good, and I think around like COVID-ish, right? Because obviously, the unfairness with the travels, bringing more teams and all these things, and now South Africa then got booted out. Well, not really booted out, but they've now gone to URC. I think there's now been, amongst all that, that chaos, there's been a disconnect, and you don't really get too much engagement at the club level in South Africa. Whether it's going to be URC, Curry Cup, the stadiums don't get filled, right? Compared to right, right. Compared to your Irish teams, for example, your French clubs, I think it's still because their competitions have been stable throughout, right? Here, there's been a disconnect because unless it's like a big game, right? For example, right now the Bulls are good, Sharks are good. Bulls versus Sharks, that derby is, that's going to be a bigger game. Stormers, for example, right? So Stormers play Sharks. That's going to be a big game. But not only because they have moved competitions, but because now you're now playing against Irish teams, and let's just say URC, for example, I'm not sure how many teams are there, but let's say you're playing a team that's number 13, right? You don't really have a history with this team. This team is not very good. You don't really have motivation to go to that game. So you've kind of also lost the history and the rivalries that you had before in other competitions. So I think there's a disconnect that's grown, I think, between when you're comparing Test rugby to club rugby.
Yeah, I agree, Kumbi. And you'll find even right now in England, like with a lot of clubs, can I say defaulting, whatever, going
broke. They crashed out.
Yeah.
London Irish, I forgot the other two that crashed out, and still more on the horizon.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So in that, you end up with either creating teams that honestly no one cares about. Not that they don't care about the players, right? Like I could be saying, it's really about the history, right? Because like your favorite players might be there, but if there's no rivalry, it's hard to market it. It's hard to it's hard to create personalities around it. So I think that the financial aspect of it as well has just been, I don't want to say mismanaged, because I'll be honest, I don't know what the solution is. Maybe adopting. Okay. No. But could be. Here's my thing, right? Look at America. Right? I think because America prioritizes, like, you'd rather play for Miami Heat than you would for Team USA, to be honest, right? Or the Lakers, because the Lakers have more heritage. Right? If we were in a position where the club things matter a lot, right? And again, I don't know how America managed to do that. I think it's all the trash talking, right? Right, and building out the personalities, right? But then if of course rugby could tap into something, but still something that's part of its DNA, right? Because maybe trash talking is not quite, I mean, of course on the field they do trash talk, but in the media it's not the same. It's not the same as, like, the UFC maybe should be, right? Because cricket has started doing a good job there with like the T20 series. They've made it exciting. It's fun, it's fast, it's making a lot of money, at least last I checked. Right. So but then, because cricket is inherently a boring game, like spending the whole day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. watching essentially a ball being tossed. That's not exciting. But then they found a way. So I think if rugby were to find whatever is part of their DNA, and cricket tapped into their own DNA, right? Because T20, it's not a new format. It's theirs. It's always been there. It just got put at the forefront. But again, I just don't know what that would be. But if they solve that, I think the sport to grow overall, and the attendance for the local games would be as exciting as, like, when the Springboks play.
Right. Guys, sorry, just my light is failing.
Okay.
Yeah, but
we can still see you good, man. You're good.
Yeah. I'm still looking. Okay.
Fine.
It looks like the sun is going down, and I don't have a light. I'm trying to put my phone on here to try to see if I,
It's like, if it starts fading to black, it's not me just going out. I'm still here, believe me. No, you know what's interesting? As you say that, you asked, like, with the US side, like, what is the interest? And I think this is where it goes into the variation of the cultures. And I found, like, overseas, a lot of the culture does go international and then club professional, and then schoolboys, schoolgirl, and etc. going down, youth and spread out. In the US, international is not even a consideration in terms of like a motivation to get to. It is the culmination of everybody from the professional side or from the collegiate side or from the high school side that are going to just represent. So you don't have that team that is together for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You might have players come together and they've happened to be all-stars together and played together.
Right.
And so they understand each other because they're just returning back in consistency, but they're not practicing. It's not training together unless they happen to be on the same team for their respective club professional sides.
Right. Yeah.
So like the story that gets attached to it is the less so maybe the team. Like, for example, high school levels, obviously your particular school, and then the surrounding alumni and that neighborhood that surrounds the school. So you have that. But from a university side, it is the university's name through that sport. You know, if you just take that sport out of the university, they would be like, oh, you're over there, but I support LSU. You're the football team that, well, no, the football team would still get it. You're the basketball team that used to be represented as LSU, but you're not LSU anymore, so it disconnects from there, right? You know, and then subsequently with the professional, it creates that. So I think the negative side of it is that you don't have that national excitement for a team in the U.S. unless it's the Olympics, or the World Cup. Right, because like FIBA, nobody in the U.S. gives a damn about FIBA.
We don't either.
Right, exactly. Like, you can tell me all day, oh man, the best European players. I'm like, I don't care. We got the NBA. I'm like, why am I looking over at international? I don't care. But like, come that one event and it comes together. Okay, now we're all stars. Now we got KD with LeBron and Steph Curry, right? It's the Avengers in that sense. But these guys aren't like not playing the NBA to only play USA, right? You know, and such. So,
but that's sorry, that's you bring up. It seems like that's your culture, and I actually I'd prefer that over what we have, because I don't know how important it is to even make the national team when you're 8 years old or 14, 16. Would it be important? Would you guys prioritize that?
I mean, internationally, no. All-star sides, yes. And even at that, it can be regional or such. And again, also depends on the sport. So from a football standpoint, not as much. From a soccer standpoint, maybe a little bit more so. From a basketball standpoint, it's iffy. I think so much more development in all-stars inter-country and people maybe entering into those all-star teams from around, but not necessarily the international.
The reason I bring that up is, like, if you grow up here in I'd say it's generally Southern Africa, we share a similar school system with South Africa and Zimbabwe. It's actually it's nearly identical. So here, when you are practicing, you're practicing to play for the national team. For the national team, right? So even for me to switch from rugby to hockey, I had a higher chance of making the national team for hockey, and I just wanted to play a national team, right? So I was like, okay, I'm not the biggest, the fastest, but then in hockey I'm pretty skillful, and then I went on to make the national team for hockey, right? But then if my goal was, let's say, play for the University of Zimbabwe, right, which is like, these are colleges, then which is, I think, the mentality you guys have there of, okay, you know what, I need to get a scholarship to go to this university, and then from this university they have great connections to this team, right? If we had a similar system, I think one, it rewards more players, because one, you go to college for free, right? I'm pretty sure everyone on the team is there for free.
Exactly.
Two, you guys give it enough coverage. Now, granted, you can, because your states are actual countries. Right?
True story.
Right. I've heard there's a state you can fly 6 hours and still be in the same state. Right.
Yeah,
If-
Texas.
yeah. If I fly 6 hours, that's the distance from here to Kenya. Right. That's
Yeah.
which is from southern Africa to the equator. Right. That's right. That's a 6-hour flight. If I'm going to South Africa, it's an hour and maybe like 30 minutes. It's
It's a hop and a skip. You just right there.
right. I remember I was reviewing some album. I didn't even finish the album, and we I think I'm in another country. Right now I'm thinking about, oh my, where's my passport? So obviously you guys can, but South Africa does try, because it does link people to the academies, right? Like the Sharks Academy, right? Like the Lions, right? Which is the closest thing. But again, if you could rally a community behind it, like Texas, I'm sure like I'm sure that there's a Texas City, right, as well.
There's a Texas City, but it's not.
Okay.
It's tiny. It's a little tiny town.
Okay. Well, then the state, then, right? I'm sure you guys all would rally behind that team. Here, if we had something similar, I think it would be, financially beneficial, and maybe allow us to have, allow other things to be important other than the national team. Because I'll be honest with you, here in when it comes to rugby, I think school rugby is even bigger than national rugby in Zim.
Yeah,
that's much bigger.
Wow.
It's packed. When you go to a St. George's versus like St. John's game, right, which are some of the top boys schools, or top two schools. So that's one of the top two schools. Yeah, they are packed, right, fully packed, and there's police there. There's it's a whole event, right, and you don't get that at club rugby. You might get it at national rugby, right? You might. But if we could transfer that, so essentially rugby here will end at high school, right? Which is why a lot of people go in South Africa and stuff.
So that makes a lot of sense, because it almost feels like the small town effect whenever you have it, like high school football becomes the most important thing, because everybody has a connection to that school or to a school in that sense. So you, regardless of whether or not you fully finished, there's a chance that you attended, and I'm assuming most people have finished school, so you can always represent for your school. I can represent for my high school from day until nighttime and back, because I know that I will forever be associated, that my degree is from there, etc. But I guess as you further go up, like the story changes, and this is where I go back to the celebrity, the celebrity aspect, the individualistic, where a player from a high school goes to a university or goes to a different club, that fan base by nature you would hope would follow that person in and be like, yo, he represents my high school, so I want to represent for him at this club, because if he balls out at this club, well, then it shows that my high school is even better than everybody else around, and then goes like that. But I'm assuming it doesn't transition like that, essentially.
No, it's not at the. Maybe people from the high school will be interested, but a high school is not. It's not really a community. I mean, here high schools are big, but you don't build a community around it. Like like the top. I don't know who won the league last year for rugby, which is strange because I was on calculating the points. 2024. Yeah. Was it not St. John's? St. John's, yeah. Right. So St. John's, it's in pretty much the wealthiest neighborhood in the country, and it's not like that community, like it's like
so embracing.
Exactly.
You absolutely don't get stopped by cops and people going, "Sir, why are you here? Can I help you? Are you sure you're in the right area?"
Right, yeah, but if they could, the thing is, if the high density areas, I really think if they had like a a team, right, where it's named after like the community and it's doing well, I do think if that person went on to play even like club level, let's say for soccer, I think that town would have that. Because when I hear my parents speak of the players back in the day, they're so proud, like, oh man, he grew up, in our village, so and they now have the purchasing power. So when they get the purchasing power, right, but but then at high school level, there's no money and high, so it could be as big as you wanted, but there's no money there.
And that makes sense. Again, it always comes back to that value proposition and it how that is able to transfer itself down. Like, yo, the classmate, like I have one of my classmates, he used to play in the NBA, won a championship with them. And so it's very easy to see the transition, because you're just like, oh, okay, that guy, not necessarily that he made his money and then it came down to the school because the school is fine, but it's the stamp of approval, it's the credibility aspect of it that goes, the guy came from my school, I know them, and so my school has that much more talent and you should be able, and we can rock it together, that kind of thing. And it just kind of transfers from there.
We're taking dumplings to a new level. My name is Gifte Belu. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods, and I want to introduce you to one of our most popular products, dumpling flour. What makes our dumpling flour so popular is that it is a mix of unrefined super flours that create the maximum level of nourishment for your personal dumplings. This is including mixes like buckwheat, sunflower, flax seeds, everything that helps to be able to make your appetite stronger, more fulfilled, and healthier. Including within that, we have no added sugars, so we want to make sure that it is rich in protein, rich in fiber, and rich in vitamins and minerals. Our dumpling flour is diabetic friendly, high in quality gluten-free mixes with no rice. And if you know, you know. There's always a little bit of rice to be able to stabilize it. Not here in our dumpling flour. It is naturally nourishing. And of course, it's a great substitute for wheat-based dumplings. With this gluten-free dumpling, you can now make your croissants, you can make your rice dumplings, you can make your dessert dumplings. You can absolutely find this at healthenhancedfoods.com. Go ahead, get yourself a bag, get yourself a pallet, and make sure that you can fulfill for your people and yourself the way that you really deserve it. Don't wait, let's go!
I guess that's always going to be there, though. To be honest, I think even though it's not as big, it's always going to be there. Where it's we've got however many Springboks went to Paul Roos, or I know for us because I went to a smaller school here we went to a smaller school in Zim. We had David Pocock, right?
Yeah,
and it's always a thing where we're like, wow, David Pocock went to our school, right? We produced David Pocock, even though he went there for like 2 years. Right.
That's a lot.
He was there. He wore our uniform, right? Okay, I need to switch on the light. I'm looking at myself here.
Okay, cool. We'll just continue. But yeah, man. Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking, who do we have? Because I think the closest we had was not at my school, just a neighboring school. That's where Beast went to. Right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, but then if I need to see a way of claiming him, but then we did have.
It's a reason. Look, this is how you do it. I got you. Now you go like, hey man, he was in our play. We played his school. Did you play? I was rooting against him. His school, was he there at the same time you were? Don't worry about it. I rooted against the school. By transaction, I rooted against him, even if he was a few years before me. Doesn't matter. The point is,
you covered all bases. You're good. Yeah.
I think we had a cricketer named Rice. I've got his first name, but yeah, that's about the heritage. Although Kumbi, clearly this is our chance to be like the big names from the school. Right, we won't make our names. we'll make our names playing for the Springboks, but we'll make it with the apps.
This is where you go. Exactly. And I love the transition because I want to kind of go into the app because everything that's been talking about goes back to how you guys envisioned how you do the fantasy daily play. So can you kind of break down what the app is, the AthStat gaming app is, and really what was the objective that you had for wanting to get this done?
Okay, yeah. So the app, I just thought of maybe with my background because it's important for the app. I love playing fantasy, right? I obsess over fantasy, right? And I'm pretty good at it, right? And the reason I'm good at it is not because I watch the games, right? But right, I pour over the
taking off the glasses, just like,
No, I've like in my mini league, I think I've won for like the past 4 years, and well, for us it's fantasy soccer, right? But because I will rarely watch a game. I'll watch like 2-3 games a season, but I love the stats, right? And then I have my brother, who this fantasy game was. He was one of like the main pioneers around it. He loves sports. He watches the sport. We bond over it. But he's an excellent coder, right? And we happen to work for a data company where we're really good at data, especially large amounts of data, right? That is one thing that I'd say we can't say we necessarily perfected it, but it's part of our core competency, which I guess makes sense because we have like I think we have 3 aeronautical engineers working for us, 2 mechanical engineers. So there's a lot of brain power that goes into the stats. So it just made sense to build something that was stats driven, but still fun from a fantasy app, right? So because I love playing fantasy so much, and it's a space I understand fairly well, we then now started to target games that are underrepresented. So if you're a soccer player, you probably don't analyze the stats that in depth, right? You just know who's good. Like, you probably can't tell me Cole Palmer's goal to assist ratio, right? But we all know he's a good player. We all know it's great. We don't know why it's great. We just know he's great. The Messis and the Ronaldos, right? But rugby, it doesn't have that. Why is Antoine Dupont good, right? And like Siya Kolisi is a brand, right? But why is he good? Right. And that's something that we set out to try quantify from a fantasy perspective and to also gamify. So the way the game works is you have players on a market, right? And then they have a price, and the price is determined through our algorithms that the big brain guys crashed up. And more than that, there is a power ranking. Now, the power ranking is, I'd say, an easy way to just tell who's a good player and who's not. It's their rating, from 99 going down, 99 being good. And again, that's where no one had done this for rugby. I think the closest was the URC, where they had done something similar, right? But it wasn't. It was hard to transfer across positions, right? And thankfully, we had a lot of smart guys on the team that crunched the numbers and could quantify, okay, what makes a good back, right? Or more importantly, what makes a good back performance? Because when we give you a number, we're putting you in like a slot, right? Of like, you're the top. That's a top 1% performance. That's a top 2% performance. That's a top 3% performance going down. So obviously, if on average you're in the top 10%, your power ranking will be in the top 10%, right? Which would be a score of 90. And the other angle we went with is representing leagues that are underrepresented from a fantasy perspective. So, as you know, if you watch soccer, there's the Fantasy Premier League, right? FPL app. That's the one everyone uses.
Everybody and their mama goes to.
Right.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I love it. I can't say a single bad thing about it. It's actually a good app, right? But then they don't have they don't cover the niche sports, right? Yeah, I know you're talking about your competitor, but well, they're not,
He's like, I love you. You guys do so good. I'm gonna try and destroy you. By the way,
Yeah.
I love you.
yeah, no, but I'm a big believer in like rising tides raise all
Lift
ships.
all boats.
Right. So if they do well, we do well because they won't do everything well, right?
I like
And
that. I
right,
like that.
we are not necessarily targeting the same players as them as well, right? Because again, for us, it's underrepresented things. So such as rugby, NCAA, right? So college sports, we have that. We have that as part of our game. So obviously, the main money machine is NFL for as far as fantasy games and whatnot. So he goes, okay, no, we'll do NCAA. We still have NFL. We still have the Premier League, right? Right. Women's rugby are definitely very underserved. So women's rugby, right? Women's soccer, and especially the USA is doing fantastically well in both. Right. I mean, soccer. You guys are a powerhouse. It's hard to see. It's hard. It's hard to. Yeah, just, like you guys are yeah. So right, soccer. You guys are doing well. Right. So, but then it's underrepresented, and more importantly, it's growing. Right, because no one wants to start a business and something that's as saturated as men's soccer. Right. But women's soccer, women's rugby is growing, and it's growing exponentially. It's growing very fast, and it's growing in one of the biggest markets, which is the US. Right? You want your things growing in the US. I think China, India, those are bigger populations, right? But then the US has a lot of buying power and also a lot of enthusiastic fans. Right. So, like you said, like if that guy, if that friend of yours who played in the NBA, if you could track him before he got to the NBA, when he was still in college, like, hey, that's my boy. I'm going to put him on my team. I don't care if he's going to put up 30 points today. I don't care if he's going to put up one. Right, that's my boy. Right, I'm going to have him in my team. Right, and that's the experience we want to give to people. Yeah, and also like Sia Kolisi and whatnot. A lot of people don't know even the club he plays for. Right, they just know he's a Springbok captain. But then if you could follow him there, yeah. So that's the other aspect that we're tapping into. And you are a fantasy manager, so we try and make it easy. You can auto create your team, or if you're like me who lost the stats, we give you the stats, and then you can make a more informed decision. You can play season long, or you can play per round. We find Americans specifically do like the faster paced round based, like, let me just pop in the team for a weekend and then I can win something, right? And you could win. Right now we're offering gift cards as we grow, but the rewards will obviously increase in value as we grow. And yeah, so just yeah, that's the long and short of it. Yeah.
Yo, I like it. And I do think that, with fantasy, it's always easier. I know for me, ironically, with NBA was fantasy. This is, mind you, this is almost 23 years ago that the fact that these words came out of my mouth. 23 years ago when I first did it, but it was what got me attached to NBA initially very hard. And then with football, I've been just an obsession on that one from about the same time till even to this day, where it changed the way that I even looked at the sport. It's the reason why I even did rugby journalism in the first place, because once you start looking at stats and you start looking for habits, and you're able to be like, okay, how do I organize my team to be able to achieve the highest amount of points against this week? And what am I looking for in terms of their habits, or what am I looking for in terms of positioning, who they play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the pieces that go to making a great fantasy team, or making a great better, or just being able to do proper predictive analytics or articles or anything like that. It just made it so much easier for me to be able to pay attention. And now the interest wasn't just simply, do we get a win or a loss, which is great in and of itself, but it's such an emotional toil that sometimes it makes it impossible to watch anybody else. You're like, yo, I'm gonna watch my team. If they lose, everybody can burn. If they win, everybody can burn because we're about to burn them.
Yeah.
But you know, with fantasy, it was like, okay, now I want to watch this player on this team, which gives you a reason to watch that team. You know, it's like I wanted to make sure, hey, please do good. I need you to get your yards so I can get my win, and etc. So
if you want to replace some players, right? Like I want to know who's doing good. You always need to keep an eye. The engagement begets more engagement. So the more we play these games, like Nyasha, I think you're now starting to watch a little bit more, Premier League, for example, because
I am.
Exactly.
So the engagement just continues to grow.
Exactly.
Honestly, it's that same thing. Like whenever you find a way to put a stake into the game, I think it also helps supersede some of that necessary multiple years, decades of needing to build history with a team or a player to truly enjoy it fully, like build with the league to be able to enjoy it, where you're just like, I'm willing to devote time to this. Now it's like, okay, I got something that jump started me in. I'll give a crap about it. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, I'm caring today. I don't know if I'll care tomorrow. Oh, shoot, I'm here again. And then you've gone through a whole season. You're like, I can't believe I did this.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. like anyone who knows me and soccer, like I did not watch soccer at all. I didn't enjoy it because it's a low scoring game. But then once you start playing fantasy, I now get the
once I started murking people on the paper, and I was like, yo, I gotta keep this soccer watching.
And everything just feels personal. And I like whether or not I catch the game, I am engaging with it, right? Whether or not it's okay, this person do well. Oh, they're injured. What's wrong? Right? Oh, did they sleep well today? Because I promise you, people keep track of everything. Like, oh, okay, no, he was limping a little bit. Like, no, he had a fall in the club, right? Or today some training pictures leaked. He didn't look too good, and I'm there on Twitter. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then rugby, because again, Kumbi and I have the show. Rugby, the one issue we found was also you had no place of finding stats like together. And if you did, they weren't like the easiest to read, right? So again, in the like right now, if I just ask you like how many carries does Ibn have like this tour, this championship, you wouldn't know, and finding them in one place like total would be hard. But then in the app we collected, we collected through the app. You can just view the averages. We also do have a separate product where you can get game by game, right? That's separate from the app, but tied. That's where you get your odds and the actual breakdown, not just totals, but the actual breakdown of the game. And for nerds like me or people that are passionate right, about the numbers.
The nice way of saying it. Yes, rabid, crazy, will absolutely destroy everything. That's the greatest attributes. I like passion. I see you.
It's just there in one place. You can go, pick it up, and have fun yourself, because that's what I love doing it. Like I'll be up all night doing this. I love it.
No, I love that. I love that. Where can people find the app?
All right, so we are in the App Store and the Play Store. So whichever is your preferred, and just look up AthStat Games.
Spell it out because AthStat is a lot of stuff inside this term.
Right. Right. So it's like athletic stats. So ATH STAT. Right. So AthStat. Right. So just think athletic stats. So just look that up, and you'll be able to see the game. We are right now only approved in 27 states. I think should be 27. Well, there's a list, but either way, we are still expanding as we get more licensing. As we get more approval, we'll expand across the entire United States. And unfortunately, if you're not in the US right now, it is only available in the US. We will make it global because yes, rugby is a global game. Right.
We're trying to
Football
help
is
the
making
Americans.
right. We're trying to help you guys
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
Right.
We're
Right.
appreciating it. Every little bit
Yeah.
helps, you know. What can we
Yeah.
say?
Exactly. Yeah. So right now it's only available in America, but we will, in the future, expand to the rest of the world because, like I said, these are global games. But right now, of course, it's just well, this is the more technical side of the business, which I won't get into. But yeah, if it's not available, we'll still just keep a lookout, follow our socials, and as it gets approved in more places, we will make it available, and we'll let everyone know.
Okay, and you guys also obviously have the Benchmark podcast. What can people find and expect from that podcast?
Well, you can find a stats nerd, and that's me. And then you can find someone who can speak about rugby for an hour straight without breathing, as Kumbi,
100%.
right?
Right.
And it's I think it's unique in that aspect, in that you have someone who's really good at rugby, and then you have someone like me who's pretty good at math. But by the way, Kumbi's good at math. He's an aeronautical engineer. I just want to put that out there. He's not bad at math. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but when it comes to rugby,
Right.
rugby over math,
Yes.
though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's someone who's
Rugby over
who's
math.
who watches rugby with their heart. Right?
Yeah.
So
right.
essentially what you get is a heart person, and me who I just mostly care about stats. Maybe I'm not logical when it comes to the Springboks, but then even then I'll scrutinize their stats. And yeah, so that's I think that's our unique selling point. Also, we've known each other for a very long time, which I think adds to the chemistry. It's always enjoyable to actually being on the podcast. Just we did get a bit busy, but we should be uploading soon. And yeah, I think that's what you get from that. I don't know if Kumbi wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, 100%. Basically, just like what Nyasha says. If you can still see me,
He's still good. Look,
we see that dark chocolate, man.
Yeah,
there
right.
we go.
Yeah, fine chocolate.
Through, baby.
That's
Let's
my
go.
boy.
Right. So basically, if you want, if because just like what Nyasha says, all sports are starting to become data driven, right? But if you're one of those people who are still, very much know the data is wrong, right? You're on my side. If you want the data, you're on Nyasha's side, right? If you want to fight that fight, you want to, our comment section is always open, right? So that's where, obviously we've got both the best of both worlds, you'll find hopefully. So yeah, come through if Benchmarkers Rugby Show.
Yes.
And check this out.
Oh, and one other thing we forgot to mention, we do have an AI model that predicts how a team will play. And
Right.
it did very well in the World Cup. Like, if South Africa were to lose, where should they be dominated? If New Zealand were to lose, where would they be dominated? And also, what should South Africa do? Right. So obviously, it's not something as simple as score more tries. Gain more meters. Right. It's very nuanced. Right. And it's to the DNA of the team. Right. So South Africa is not. I mean, they're big on the scrum. They have South Africa is pretty complete. Right, they have the rush defense. They have the kicking game. I don't think they have a weak point. Well, Kumbi will tell you what their weakness is. But then anyway, statistically the model always predicts them winning. No, but anyway, it's something that's like during the World Cup, obviously it predicted it should dominate the scrums, and which teams would it really succeed versus that, and which teams could counter it. Because right now, I think Kumbi will tell you New Zealand can counter it. I think in the last game they were more physical. I'd even argue I feel like New Zealand probably should have taken that. I feel like they dropped the ball, if I'm to be honest. But that's but anyway, that's also another unique offering of the show.
Yo, I love that. All right, I got one more question for you guys before I got to let you guys go. All right, 4 teams, all right, in a head-to-head playoff going into essentially a semifinal, final. Who do you think wins it all? You got the 2011, 2015 New Zealand All Blacks. You got 2019, 2023 Springboks. Who comes out in the win in the competition on this?
Wait. Let me go first because Kumbi's answer is going to be fantastic and right. Right. So okay. Who's are the 20 are the is it okay? So you have the 2011
So
All Blacks
They're
versus
separate.
right. So
versus
2019 and 2015 All Blacks are 2019 Springboks, 2015 All Blacks, one side, 2023, 2020, 2011 All Blacks on the other side.
Okay, firstly, okay, so the 2015 All Blacks are definitely beating the 2019 Springbok side.
Easy.
Right. And
Easy.
the 2023 Springboks, right, are definitely without fail right beating the 2011 All Blacks. Now in
Okay,
the
okay.
final,
I'll take that.
right,
I'll take that. That's
right.
fine.
Now in the final, it's
Right.
hard. It's hard. I still think the Springboks will win,
I knew
not
it. You see
because
this bias.
no, wait,
You
wait,
see,
wait,
dude,
hold on,
this is
hold on, hold on. Wait, let me quantify it. Can you quantify it?
right.
Not necessarily because they will play like better, more exciting rugby, right? But I really feel Springboks do whatever it takes to win, right? And I think they will study the heck out of the All Blacks, right? They will
Okay.
they will put an 8-0 split, if you can call it a split, right? If they have to, right? They will do. I think right now they're just so tactical that they could study anyone and win, right? Whereas
Right.
obviously just talent alone and pure exciting rugby, I'd probably give to All Blacks, but do what it takes to win, right? Like we showed in actually in both World Cups, but specifically the last one, we just won the games, right? We won one game at a time, right? It wasn't always pretty, it wasn't always great, but we just won game at a time. So that's why I think the 2023 Springboks would win.
Well, thing. Now
Win it
listen,
all.
listen. Here's the thing, right? You're talking about the luck. Springboks win by luck. That's fine. I know. This is actually like a big conversation that happens online. Like, I don't know if it's at least in the circles, in my online circles.
No, I see it,
Best
yeah.
team of all time. People say 2030. I mean, 20. These two teams basically. 2023 Springboks, are they the best of all time? Is it? For me, it's still the 2015 All Blacks. That team had a good forward pack, right? A forward pack that can go against the Springboks right now. That's the first thing that you need to do. The second thing now is, once you have that, do you have complete players that can now compete against? For example, in this case, Springboks also have a kicking game. You've got Pollard who comes in and all these things. Yes, you've got Dan Carter, the best number 10 of all time, right? He's your number 10, drop goal anywhere, penalty anywhere, right? You've got the second coming of John Along and Julian Savia on the way. You've got Mahanonu, best center of all time, on your centers. Best center combination with Conrad Smith, right? Your kicking game is basically going to be can be contested because you've got Ben Smith at the fullback, right? And you've got the best. I mean, I will say 2023 box best forward back of all time. But I'll put this other All Blacks team's forward back as the second best forward back of all. Maybe third, 2007-ish. Box were also really good. But they've got a very good forward back. Listen, that was such a complete team. There's no one is beating the 2023. You've got Richie McCaw. Like, what are you talking about? What are you
I told you it was going to be fantastic.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yo, look, man. Nyash, man, Kumbi, thank you guys so much, man. I love it. Everybody definitely check out AthStat's Gaming. Check out their podcast, Benchmarkers. Obviously, you see what you can get. It definitely goes even more. I love it. And lastly, before you guys go, let people know where they can find you guys individually if they want to connect with y'all.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have socials. So if you want to find me, you're going to find me on the Benchmarkers. But just to finish off for myself, just thank you for having us on your show. Gift, we really appreciate it. Thanks for letting me talk about rugby for a bit. I always appreciate the opportunity to belt out things about rugby. So yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Okay, yeah. And I am, well, I'm not on Instagram right now, barely active on socials, but LinkedIn, I'm fairly active. So you can catch me on LinkedIn, Nyasha Mutseta. If you have questions about the game, or any of the other products that we have, LinkedIn is probably the best place you catch me, because that's the one I'll be monitoring the most. And yeah, like Kumbi said, man, thanks. This has been fun, right? Yeah, and it's good to see Kumbi on camera again, right? Happy, right?
It's been a minute,
We
right?
it's been a minute, right? Because we
Yeah,
actually work for two different companies, so we don't get to see each other as often. So thank you, and of course, man, you always bring and gift you always bring the energy.
and
It's
listen.
it's
Oh,
yeah, it's nice,
from
right?
the opening to
From the right. You see, it's that American energy, American
right,
slash
right, right,
Nigerian,
right.
no,
Yeah,
American
yeah, right.
Nigerian
Exactly. The
energy.
combination is crazy.
Exactly, right. So it's great, right? We feel so welcomed. It doesn't, it's like we've known each other.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you. Oh yeah, and also do follow us. Do follow AthStat Gaming. Now those are the socials that also matter. Right? Yeah, just look up AthStat. Yeah, as you can see, we're not big social media fans.
Kudos to y'all's discipline, and I appreciate y'all pulling it. I look forward to doing this again. You know what? I might have to bring this back again for either next year's rugby championships or even later. I just want more of it. Just get the analysis between the two of you. You might not be able to get the
Anytime.
time for yourselves, but we're gonna make something happen.
Yeah, right,
Okay,
right.
yeah.
100%.
Nyasha and Kumbi, thank you guys so much for being a part of the podcast. Thank you so much for just taking the time to be able to tell the story and be able to provide us like this option. I can't wait to see how this app, AthStat Gaming, end up working out. And thank you to everybody else for being able to take the time to listen to this episode and be able to engage within it. I hope you were able to take something from it. Of course, I mentioned at the top of the podcast, check out our other one. We had Chris Thomas last week. Obviously, we have our new show. We've spoken with people like Nia Tapper. We have spoken with people like Blaine Scully, USA Rugby. We've spoken to actors and World Rugby administrators and HBCUs and so many people from all walks of life within this rugby space that are building the story and allowing us to be able to see how this game can be able to grow, develop, and be engaged in our lives. So I thank you so much for willing to take the time, of course, and for taking the time on this one. But in the meantime, as I got my son, we're trying to put him to bed. I hope that you guys are happy. I hope that you guys are healthy. But most importantly, I hope that you know that you truly are highly favored. Until next time, y'all. Cheers.